Hello and welcome to this class of Principles of Microeconomics. I am your teacher Mohammad Nadeem Sarwar. Today we shall discuss rationing, surplus and deadweight loss. In this lecture we shall first study rationing by the market and by the government. Then we shall study consumer and producer surpluses, and we shall study the deadweight loss in case of price ceiling, floor price, and in case of taxes. So let's start with the lecture. Students, when demand for a good is more than its supply, it gets impossible to provide the good to everyone. So rationing is needed. That is, we have to place some restrictions on the consumers or on the quantity they can buy. This rationing could be because of higher demand rising naturally or because of government intervention in the market. Now we study rationing by the market. That is, what happens when there is a shortage in the market and we let markets work without any intervention. From this diagram, let's assume that the price is at P1, that is, it is below the equilibrium level of prices. Here, quantity demanded is at QD1 and quantity supplied is at QS1. At this price level, there is a shortage in the economy. This will result in increasing the prices. So, following the law of supply, an increase in price will result in increasing the quantity supplied. So, we will move along the supply curve upward. Similarly, following law of demand, a rise in price will result in a decrease in the quantity demanded. So, the demand curve will contract. This will continue until the price level is reached where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. This happens at point E, where price level is P and quantity traded is Q. The sum up in the words of Case, Fair and Oster is, as the price rises, the available supply is rationed. Those who are willing and able to pay the most get it. That is, when rationing is done by the market forces, those consumers who have more money and who are willing to pay more for the good, they get it. Now, the rationing because of government intervention. Sometimes, for some goods, government fixes their price below the market price level to facilitate people to get it. This also creates a situation like rationing. If the market price of a good is high enough that considerable portion of population might not be able to afford it, government often fixes the price below the market level, say P1. This is called price ceiling. In other words, price ceiling is the maximum price below the equilibrium level of price of a good that sellers are allowed to charge. In this case as well, the quantity supplied will not be enough to match with the quantity demanded by the consumers. So, some rationing will be needed. At such price ceiling, when quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied, the rationing is done by first come first served basis, by the coupons or ration cards, or by the favoritism. By the coupons or ration card, rationing is done by limiting the quantity that a consumer can buy for a good. For example, we can limit the quantities of sugar to, let's say, 10 kg per month that a family can buy. In this case, government issues ration card and people with that ration card go to government designated centers and buy the good from there at concessional prices. However, the problem with this structure is the emergence of black market. When quantity demanded of a good is greater than its quantity supplied and the price is fixed by the government below the market price level, then it is very much possible that some of the producers will hold the good and sell it in underground economy at higher prices. Therefore, we can say that no rationing system other than the price system by market is sustainable because it is nearly impossible to stop willingness to pay to play its role. Now, the consumer and producer surplus. First, the consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is the difference between maximum amount against a good that consumer was willing to pay and the price he or she actually paid. The price paid by the consumer is also called market price. So we can say that it is the difference between the willingness to pay and the market price of the good. We can understand it with the help of following table. In this table, the quantity supplied and quantity demanded are equal at price 40. So rupees 40 per unit is the price that is prevailing in the market. However, we can see that on first unit, the consumer was willing to pay rupees 100. So in this case, the consumer surplus will be 60. And for the second unit, the consumer was willing to pay rupees 80. Again, in this case, the consumer surplus will be the difference between willingness to pay and the amount he actually paid for that unit. Because of the market price is at rupees 40 per unit, so consumer paid rupees 40 for the second unit as well. Therefore, the consumer surplus is 80 minus 40, that is 40 rupees. In this way, we can calculate consumer surplus for third and fourth unit as well. This is also shown in the diagram. More precisely, we can say that consumer surplus is the area under the demand curve above the price line up to the quantity traded. On the other hand, the producer surplus is the difference between the market price, which is the price a seller actually gets, and the price the producer was willing to accept for that good. From the diagram, if we assume that the price of the good in the market is fixed at rupees 40 per unit and 4 units of the good are traded. So, for the first unit, the producer received rupees 80, but he was willing to sell it against 20. So, the producer surplus will be 80 minus 20, that is 60. Similarly, the second unit producer was willing to sell at rupees 40, but he got 80 for that unit as well. So the difference between the two is producer's surplus. Same for third and fourth unit. In other words, on the graph, the producer surplus is the total area above the supply curve, below the price line, up to the quantity traded. Students, competitive market system maximizes the total surplus without any deadweight loss. By the total surplus, we mean the sum of consumers and producers' surplus. And by the deadweight loss, we mean the net loss of consumer and producer surpluses because of market intervention or overproduction or underproduction. In other words, deadweight loss is the loss of consumers and producers which is not transferred to anybody or any sector in the society. So, its cost has to be borne by the society as a whole. Let's discuss the deadweight loss in different cases. First is the case of price ceiling. Here we can see that at market price P, the consumer surplus is the area of triangle CEP and the producer surplus is the area of triangle OEP. Therefore, the total surplus will be the sum of two. However, if the government imposes price ceiling at price level P1, then the producer's surplus, which is the area above supply curve till the price line up till the quantity traded, shrinks to triangle OAP1. However, the consumer surplus expands and it becomes CFAP1. For geometrical purposes, we are dividing it into two parts, the triangle CFG and the rectangle P1AFG. So now the total surplus will be the sum of these two. However, the loss in consumer surplus of the triangle FBE and the loss in producer surplus represented by the triangle AEB is not transferred to anyone in the society. So, the sum of these two is the deadweight loss. Next is the case of floor price. Students, floor price is the minimum price of a commodity set at a level above market equilibrium level. That is, the price of this commodity will minimum be at the level fixed called floor price. However, it is free to allow to go upward. This is usually set by the government to produce to support producers and workers. The examples of floor price are the wheat spot price in Pakistan, which is announced by the government to support the farmers. Similarly, the sugarcane spot price and the minimum wage rate are also the example of floor prices. Now let's see it in the diagram. We can see that at market price P, consumer surplus is represented by triangle CEP and producer surplus is represented by triangle OEP. However, if the floor price P1 is fixed by the government, then the consumer surplus will be CFP1, that is the area under demand curve, till the quantity traded and till the price level. The producer surplus will be OHFP1, that is for geometrical understanding we can divide it into triangle OHG and rectangle GHFP1. So the total surplus will be the sum of consumer surplus as well as of producer surplus. If we name these areas as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, then at market price consumer surplus is 1 plus 2 plus 3 and producer surplus is 4 plus 5 plus 6. Whereas at price P1 consumer surplus is 1 and producer surplus is 6, 4 and 2. So the deadweight loss will be 3 and 5. Now we discuss the deadweight loss in case government imposes the tax. Here we assume that tax burden is shared by both consumers as well as by producers. From the diagram, we can see that at market prices P, the consumer and producer surpluses are represented by triangles CEP and OEP respectively. After taxes, the price of commodity increases to PT. So consumers pay the price PT, therefore their surplus is CFPT. Producers receive the price till G. So their surplus, that is the producer surplus, is OHG. The total surplus is the sum of these two and the government revenue is GHFPT. If we number these areas as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, we can see that at market price P, the total surplus is 1, 2, 3 from consumer surplus and 4, 5, 6 from producer surplus. Whereas after taxes, consumer surplus shrinks to 1, 2 and 3 are lost producer surplus is only 6, 4 and 5 are lost. Out of this total loss, 2 and 4 are shifted to government. Therefore, this is a redistribution but not a deadweight loss, whereas 3 and 5 are the loss of consumer and producers' surpluses, but these are not shifted to any sector. Therefore, these two areas represent deadweight loss. That is all for this lecture. In the next lecture, we shall discuss these concepts in more depth. Please post your questions and give your feedback in comments. Also consider subscribing the channel, liking and sharing the video. Thank you.